Good morning, students. Once again, welcome back to the course of Software Testing Techniques. This video is brought to you by Newton's Group of Institutions, Macharla. This is Arvind Egireddy from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. So now, in this video, let us see how we are going to count the maximum path count and minimum paths that are required for covering the given flow graph. So in our previous videos, we have discussed about what is path product, what are path sums and path expressions. We have seen different mathematical laws, and we have also seen how we can apply a reduction procedure algorithm to control a flow graph and how we can simplify it into a single path expression. So now let us continue with the remaining part of the topics, and let us see one by one what we can do. So in general, we use node removal algorithms to know how many paths in a flow graph are there. So, and to identify the structured flow graphs and to find out the lower path count of the matrix, and in calculation of the probability, and we also use in finding the mean processing time of a routine, and we use in push or pop or to get or return, and see here also we will use it in finding the limitations and solutions for any given problem. So here in general, the intention of the node removal algorithm, which is to present one very generalized concept, which is the path expression and the way of achieving it. So for that, the common patterns what we follow in each and every application is we have to convert the program or graph into an path expression. We have to recognize a property of interest, and we have to organize an appropriate set of arithmetic rules that describe the property. So already in our previous video, we have seen how to convert a program graph into path expressions. So if you did not watch, please visit please go through it. I will provide the link in the description box. Now let us see how we can recognize the property of interest and how we can organize an appropriate set of arithmetic rules that describe the properties. And for the property of interest, here we replace the link names with by the link weights. So here the path expression now has been converted to an expression in some algebra, such as ordinary algebra with regular expressions, or we can say Boolean algebra. So now over the set of all paths, these algebraic expressions that is going to summarize the properties of interest, or it is simply evaluating the resulting algebraic expression to answer the questions what we are going to ask. So the questions can be something like that: how many paths in this particular flow graph? Of course, this question is which is not as simple as it looks. So here are some of the ways how we can ask it. So what are the maximum number of different paths that are possible? So we can ask like this: what are the fewest number of paths that are possible? Or say like this: how many different paths that are really available? Or what is the average number of paths? So many such questions can be asked. So discovering the actual number of different paths, which is a tough problem, because there could be unachievable paths here, which may result from correlated data and dependent predicates. So if both the maximum and minimum number of possible paths are known, then one will have a good idea of how to complete this particular testing, what we are going to execute. Of course, here asking about what is the average number of paths which is meaningless. So we have to know what are the maximum number of different paths that are possible, and what could be the fewest number of paths that could be possible. But here let us also see how we can find out the average number of paths, even though it is something which is meaningless. So maximum count arithmetic. So how to find out the maximum path count arithmetic? So here we have to label each link with a link weight that corresponds to the number of paths that particular link is going to represent. And here also we have to make each loop with the maximum number of times that particular loop can be taken. Of course, if the answer is infinite, then we might as well as stop the analysis, because it is clear that the maximum paths is infinite. So here we are going to take 3 cases of interest. One is either it can be parallel links, serial links, and loops. So if it is parallel links, then the path expressions, the weights we will be adding. If it is serial links, the path expressions we will be multiplying, where finding out the maximum path count arithmetic. So this is, of course, it is an ordinary algebra. Here the weight is the number of paths that are present in each set. So let us go through it with the same example what we discussed in our previous lecture for finding out the node removal algorithm. So I'm taking the same example. So here each link expression is being represented by a single link, and consequently it is given a weight of 1 at the start. And let us say that the outer loop will be taken exactly 4 times, like what we have discussed in the earlier video. And the inner loop can be taken 0 or 3 times. So for that, by using the node removal algorithm, we have derived this particular path expression by removing one by one node. So now the same thing, let us see how we can calculate the maximum path count. Okay, so here if you can see, so in this particular case, here the flow graph in this particular picture, which shows which should be interpreted by substituting the link names with the maximum paths through that link as 1. And also note the number of times for looping. So here 0 to 3, and here exactly the outer loop is exactly 4 times. Okay, and we are going to use this particular algebra, ordinary algebra. So here what we are doing, so we annotated the flow graph by replacing the link names with the maximum of paths through that particular link with 1. And we also noted the number of times for that particular loop. And here in this picture, what we have done. So here first unit, the first pair of parallel loops. So then what we have done, we have parallel loops outside the loop, and also we have paired in the outer loops. So see here, these are the parallel loops, and these are also parallel loops. So outer loop and in this particular sequence. But see here, this is not a parallel loop. See, this is going in this direction and this is going in this direction. So here both are going in the same direction. So these are parallel loops. This also from here to here, from here to here. But this case, it is not a parallel loop. It is a serial. It is a loop, but it is going like this. Okay, so now if you come here, it is we have to multiply the things and remove the nodes to clear the cluster if they are sequential series. So here it is clearly shown series. If they are in series, then we have to multiply. So here 1 into 2 into 1, which is a 2. So multiply the things out and remove the nodes to clear the cluster. So this is the procedure what we follow for reducing the number of nodes. So here also what we do is we we will try to reduce the flow graph by removing one by one node. The same thing, but with a different notation. Okay, so here, if you see here, what we have done. So we calculated the total weight of the inner loop. So in this inner loop, we have calculated the total weight. See how it is. So just what we have to do. See here it is 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. 4 into 1 is 1. So 1 into 4 is 4. So directly instead of everything we can write it 4, but I have calculated only this first part. So that's the reason here I have made it 4. Or else directly you can 4 into 1 is also 4 because they are serial. Now this is the inner loop. So since this is the inner loop and it is having 4 times 100 compulsory. So 4 into 2, which is an 8. And this will become 4 because this is serial. So if you are bringing this here, this 4 into 1 will be 4. So here 8 times I am executing this loop. So 8 into 8 into 8 into 8, 4 times I am executing this 8. So it will be 8 to the power of 4. So it is 2, 8 power 4, 4. So it is the product, that is the 2 into 8 to the power of 4 into 4, which is 32,768. Okay. So this is how. Now let us calculate the total weights of the inner loop, which can execute the maximum number of 0 times and maximum number of 8 times. So as we know that the expression for this is being given like what we have calculated earlier in last video. So here by substituting the values 1. So by substituting the values 1, we are getting the same result what we have got in the graphically, 32,768. So here we are considering the inner loop 3 times, 0 to 3 times. That's why it is been 3 underscore bar. So bar, this bar is under the exponent. So this case also 3 underscore bar. Whereas here, no bar is required. Here the bar is not available because it is exactly 4 times. Okay, of course we have represented with the bar, but here we will not have the bar underscore symbol. Okay, so that is exactly 4 times, whereas only in this particular case it is 3 bar and 3 bar. So what is 3 underscore? It is 3 power 0, that is 1. 1 into 1, 1 power 0, 1 square, 1 power 1, 1 square, 1 cube. So we are applying the rule, what we have seen, our mathematical rules, what we have seen. So 1, 3 underscore beneath, then it is the formula what we applied. So by that we got this particular value as 4. So here the value is 4 and here the value is 4. So here 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 into 1 is 2. That 2 into 1 is 2. Here 1 into here we got the value 4. 4 into 1 into 1 into 1, all these things is 4. And this one will be 2. So 4 into 2 whole power 4 into 4. So if we do that, 2 into 8 to the power of 4 into 4, which we got it as 32,768. So here what we took, actually the outer loop should be taken exactly 4 times. That does not mean that it is taken as 0 or 4 times. So it is exactly 4 times. So here as a result, there is an extra 4 on the outlink in the last step. So here thus the reason for the maximum number of different plants is 8192 rather than 32,768. So now let us see what is a structured flow graph. So what is the difference between the structured and unstructured? So there are numerous ways we can represent the code. So the structured code can be described in n number of, can be defined in n number of ways. But of course, here, whenever we are trying to write the structured code, we cannot use go-to statements. So they are not going to have, or they are not going to involve any ad hoc statements such as go-to statements. So a structured flow graph is one that can be reduced to a single link by successive applications of transformations for the images. So here the techniques what we are going to use is these are the four. So here the node by node reduction procedure can also be used as a test for the structured code. So here the flow graph that do not contain one or more of the graphs that are being shown in this particular images as subgraphs or which are structured. So they cannot have jump into loops. They cannot have jump out of loops. They cannot have branch into decisions. They cannot have branch out of decisions. If they have jump into loops or jump out of loops and branch into decisions or branch out of loops, then we call them as an unstructured. So the flow graph, if it is unstructured, it should not have jump into loops. It cannot have jump out of loops. It cannot have branch into decisions. It cannot have branch out of decisions. Okay, so let us see. So what is a jump into? Jump into means in between the loop, we cannot jump directly. Or we cannot, in between the loop, we cannot jump outside the loop. Of course, we can execute the program. If we are jumping into the loops or jumping out of the loops, of course, the program is correct. But we don't call it as unstructured. We call it as an unstructured. So this is an unstructured. This is an unstructured. So the jump into loops and jump out of loops lead to unstructured programming, not to structured kind of programming. It's the same case, branch into decisions and branch out of decisions. They are unstructured subgraphs. They are not structured. So a structured programming will not have these things. Jump into loops, it will not have. Jump out of loops, it will not have. Branch into decisions, it will not have. Branch out of decisions, it will not have. So now let us go with lower path count arithmetic. So what is here? So for any structured flow graph, a lower boundary on the number of paths in a particular routine can be approximated by using some arithmetics. So here this is the arithmetics what we will be using here in this case. So if it is parallel, we are going to add their path expression weights. If it is serial, we are going to take the maximum of their path weights. And if it is a loop, it is either 1 or W1. So here, in this particular arithmetics, which is an ordinary algebra, here the weight is a number of paths in each set. That's all. So by applying the arithmetic to earlier example, which will give us an identical steps. So here, let us see how we can execute. So the same example we are considering. So here we are given weights 1. So applying the arithmetic to the earlier example, which gives us the identical steps until the third step, what we have seen earlier. That is, let us see. So here, what we have done, we have given weights as 1, and we have whatever the loop 0 to 3 times, exactly 4 times. So after that, we have converted this. So here, since there are parallel edges, we have written 2 2s. The same thing, the same step until this particular step. So from this particular step, it would be different from the previously what we have seen. So here in the original graph, if we observe, it takes at least 2 paths to cover, and that it can be done in 2 paths. And if you have fewer paths in our test plan, then it will be minimum. So we probably haven't covered. So it's another check what we have to do. So that's the thing. So here we have to check out. So here if you can see, here it is 1 to 1. So what is 1 to 1? Maximum of 1 to 1, maximum of 1 to 1. So here we are not doing the product. It is the maximum value. If you can see here, it is the maximum value we are taking. If it is in series, we are taking the maximum value. That is what we have done. Previous case, it was we multiplied, but here we are doing maximum. So what is maximum of 1 to 1? It is 2. And what is the maximum of 1 to 1, this outer loop? It is also 2. So when it is serial, we will be taking the maximum. That's all. So here, what is the maximum of 1, 1, 1? Again, it is a 1. So this, from this, we got this. Okay, now what is the maximum of 2, 1? It is a 2. That's why we have written. What is maximum of 2, 2, 1? Again, it is 2. So here, the lower value, we got it as 2. And the maximum value, we got something around 32,768 something. So lower count, minimum path count for this particular example is 2. Now let us see the how we are going to calculate the probability, calculating the probability. So here, rather than the higher probability paths, path selection could be biased towards the low. So this elevates an interesting question. So what is the probability of being after a certain point in a routine? So under suitable statements, the same question, the above question, what is the probability of being after a certain point in the routine, can be answered primarily that the probability that is involved are independent. So here, which is to say that all the decisions are independent and they are uncorrelated. Then we use the same algorithm as before. That is node by node removal of uninteresting nodes. Then we will be using the weights, notations, and arithmetics, including the decisions that are associated with the loops. And probabilities can come into the act only at that particular decision part. So here we annotate each outlink with a weight that is equal to the probability of going in that particular direction. So here apparently the sum of the outlink probabilities must be equal to 1. That is obvious. So for simple loop, if the loop is taken a mean of n times, then the looping probability will be n by n plus 1. And the probability of non-looping will be 1 by n plus 1. So a link that is not part of the decision node has a probability of 1. So here you can clearly see. So the arithmetic rules for those ordinary arithmetics will be, if they are parallel, it is probability of A plus B. If they are serial, it will be probability of A into probability of B. If it is loop, it will be probability of A by 1 minus probability of B. So in this table, in the case of loops, PA is the probability of the link which is leaving the loop, and PL is the probability of looping. So here the same rules what we are using in ordinary probability theory, the same rules we will be using. So if you can do something either for the column A with the probability of PA or column B with probability of PB, then the probability that you do is either PA or PB. That is what is parallelism says. So you must do both the things of series cases. And as assumed their probabilities are autonomous, then the probability that you do for both is the product of their probabilities. That is what is series, PA into PB. For suppose, if we take this example, a loop node is having a loop probability of PL and the probability is not looping of a PA, which is clearly, which will be equal to 1 minus PL. So following the above rule, and if we are going to follow the above rule, then all we have done is we have to replace the outing probability with 1. So why we have complicated the rule. So after few steps in which we have removed the nodes, if we are going to combine the parallel terms and remove the loops and the that are alike, then we might find something like this. So it will be PL plus PA plus PB plus PC. So sorry, here it is PA. Okay, so it will be 1, which will be always equal to 1. So sum of all the probabilities will be always equal to 1. Okay, so this is a PL, not P1. Sorry. So here PL will be equal to PA plus PB plus PC, and PA by 1 minus PL plus PB by 1 minus PL plus PC by 1 minus PL, which will be PA plus PB plus PC. So here, which is by which we can say 1 minus PL will be equal to PA plus PB plus PC. So replace PA plus PB by PC play is equal to 1 by 1. So it's small correction here. So here it is, sorry, here it is 1 minus PL, and this is PA, and this is PL. Okay, so always we get the sum of the probabilities, which is as 1. So which is what we have assumed for any decision. In other words, division by 1 minus PL, which makes the outlink probabilities normal with the intention that their sums equals unity after the loop is been removed. So always we get 1 unity. Now let us see how we can calculate the mean processing time of routines. Of course, even though it is meaningless, let us see. So given the execution time of all the statements or instructions for every link in the flow graph, and the probability for each direction for all decisions, then the mean processing time for the routines as a whole, which should have to be known. So the model that is going to have 2 weights connected with every link, the processing time for that link T and the probability of that link P. So here for calculating the mean time, the arithmetic rules what we follow is, for parallel path expression A plus B, TA plus TB will be equal to PA TA plus PB TB by PA plus PB. Whereas the probability of PA plus PB will be always PA plus PB. PAB will be PA into PB. So in series, TAB is equal to TA plus TB. For A n underscore bar will be TA is equal to TL PL by 1 minus PL. So using this rule, we calculate the mean time. So for maximum, we have done it is weights multiplication. Whereas in case of lower, we have taken the maximum value of weights. But now in this case, we are going to use these mean times. So these are the arithmetic rules what we follow. So let us take again the same example. The same example. So here we are given the weights, then we are given the probability values of going in this particular loop and in this loop. So going the probability values. So here we are starting with the original flow graph that are being annotated with the probabilities and processing time. So what is the processing time? So these are the 10, 25, 40, these are the processing time and these are the probabilistic values. Now we have to combine the parallel links for the outer loop. So by combining the parallel links of the outer loop, the result is the mean of the processing time for that particular link. Since there are not any other links that leave the first node. So here, how? So it is 25 into 0.3 plus 40 into 0.7, which is 35.5. So this link, it will be this from here to here, it will be 35.5. The same thing, if we apply here, it is 20 into 0.95 plus 300 into 0.05, which is 34. So see, while replacing it, we get like this curve. So these two parallel links I have replaced with 35.5. This is how I got. And this is 34. So applied the same rules. Okay, so the after that, see, let us see that see this particular thing. Now by applying this here, since they are serial, we are adding 10 plus 35 plus 16, which is 61.5. And here it is, since these are serial, 14 plus 34 plus 15, which is 63. So when I replace it with, I will be having like this. See, this 61.5, I got like this. And this is because these are again in serial. I got this 63. How means? By using this one. Those three lines put together, I got 63. Now, again, the same process. Let us take this one. Now, we have to apply the rule. So here it is, see, here it is 0.4 into 5. So what is the way? 0.4 into 5 by 1 minus 0.6, because we are not going here this way. So almost all 1 minus 0.6 is 0.4. So we get the same value 5. So 5 plus 8. So from here to here, the value is 8 plus 5, that is 13. So we can replace this thing by 13, this entire from here. The same thing from here to this. See, we are repeating this in this particular step and this while going this. So this need to be added to this one 5 and this need to add it to this value also. How we get this? 12 into 0.6 by 1 minus 0.4 plus again this 8. So which is 20. So now if I represent that, it will be like this. So this entire line will be 13 because I got the value 30, and this one 20, I got this one. Now this is the inner loop. So here to come to this, we can go in this way. Okay, now to remove this particular inner loop, what I have to do, it is 20 into 0.6 by 1 minus 0.4. Of course, 1 minus 0.4 is 0.6. So this will get cancelled. So we will be left with 20. But to come to this particular point, we have to travel a distance of 10 because this is in the loop. So the value of this particular thing, this particular circle, this particular loop will be 30. It is not 20, it is 30. So now the same thing. So I am removing this loop and here I will be writing this as a 30. Now, so to travel from here to here, what is the value? It is 10, 30, 13. So it is nothing but 53. Now see here. So this is the total 53. Now I can go in this direction and this direction. So again, the same formulas we apply to this one. So here if you can take the 53, if you can see here, see. So it is 53, Just 7 into 0.7 by 1 minus 0.3 plus 53. So it became 60. From here to here, it is 60. From here to here, the loop here. So here, this loop, 61.52 to this loop. It is what? It is again 0.3 into 63 plus 1 by 0.7 plus this 53. So this 53 is coming this side and this is. So that I got 160. Now there is no loop. See, you clearly see here. Here there is no loop. So to travel this distance, there is no need for going. So it is 116 into 0.3. 116 into 0.3 is 49.714. So this distance will come in between this and this 61.5 and 60 just by 49.7. So 61.5 plus 49.714 plus 60, which will be giving 171.214, which is my average. So which is the mean processing time. So as a result, we got the mean processing time. We calculated the mean processing time, and the mean processing time is 171.214. So maximum number of loops we got 32,768. And minimum number of loops loop counts we got it as 2, and the average loop counts we got it as 171.214. So here we used the algebra, ordinary algebra formulas, wherein we calculated these values. Okay, so here what we understood is the regular expressions and how they follow anomaly detections. So here the flow anomaly of detection problem, which is that looks for a specific sequence of operations considered for all possible paths through that particular routine. And here we are interested in knowing whether that specific sequence occurred, but what the net effect of that particular routine is. And the method of anomaly detection, we annotate each link in the graph with the appropriate operations or the null operator, and we simplify the things to the extent possible. So after performing the above two steps, we obtain the regular expression that denotes the possible sequence of operations in the graph. And after that, we have examined the regular expressions for the sequence of interest, whether you want maximum count or minimum count, low count or mean count or probabilistic values. So here, now let us see the push pop and get return. So here to answer several different questions in this particular model, it can be used to turn up in a debugging. So here it can also help us to decide which test case to design. The question is, if it is given a pair of complementary operations such as push the stack and pop the stack, taking into consideration that the set of all possible paths through that particular routine, then what is the net effect of that particular routine? Push or pop? How many times? Under what conditions? So here are some of the complementary operations like push and pop to which the model applies, like get return, open close, start stop. So all these are the things. Now let us see the limitations. So the limitations and the solutions also. Of course, here. So here the problem of unachievable paths is the main limitation of this particular application. When all the paths are possible, then the node by node reduction procedures and the most graph theory based algorithms, they are going to work well. But of course, they may provide misleading results when some paths are unachieved. So here this approach is used to handle the unachievable paths. Of course, for any sort of application, which is to position the graph into subgraphs so that all the paths in each of the subgraph are achievable or can be achievable. So here the path may be common to several different subgraphs. So there is a chance of here in this particular case, there is a chance of overlapping of the subgraphs. So here each practice truth functional value, it is potentially, it is going to split the graph into two subgraphs. That is what we have to understand. Okay, so I hope you understood this. So by this, we are going to complete this path products and regular expression, which is the part 2 of our third unit. So by this, I hope you now you are confident in interpreting the what is a path, what are path products, what is path sum and path expressions, and about different mathematical laws like distributive, associative, and commutative